Hey guys, Hannah here. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of the Venn Pod. A little disclaimer, we recorded this episode in December with the intent to share it with you that month. However, due to the other projects we were working on, we got a little delayed in sharing this episode with you. So we will start things off by talking about the holidays, Thanksgiving, turkey, all that good stuff. So just a little disclaimer so you don't think you entered a time warp. Enjoy! Welcome to episode 7 of the Venn Pod. Happy holidays to you. It's December. It's the holiday season. We hope that you are enjoying yourself and doing lots of fun things, musical and non-musical. You're here with myself, Hannah, and next to me I have my co-host, Alex. Say hi, Alex.
Hi, happy holidays. Eat lots of turkey.
Oh, yes.
Wait, but if you're vegan, eat tofurkey. I learned that's a thing.
Tofurkey. Did you have that at ASU Thanksgiving?
I did. I had tofurkey. I had like tofu, seitan ham. It's a whole experience.
That is so cool.
I
Oh my
know.
God.
It's like when else am I going to experience a vegan Thanksgiving? So I mean, great first experience, so I'm not mad at it.
I mean, if you can't be in the Bahamas eating conch salad, then I guess eating tofurkey is a close second, right?
No, Hannah has known me for a little bit because conch salad is like my favorite thing ever, like top two. So
Okay.
she knew exactly what to say. We didn't even plan this.
So I really want to try it someday, but it looks a little bit freaky. Like, can we sidebar for a second? Like, what is conch salad? Like, what is it?
The best way and like most blunt way for me to describe it is that conch is a sea mollusk, right? Like so mollusk is a snail and it's raw. So yeah, it is like kind of jarring when people hear it, but like what's that dish called in Mexico? Ceviche. So
Ah,
that's also raw fish or like I think shrimp. But the citrus acid from like the lemons and the orange juice, that kind of like gets rid of the bacteria from it. So it's completely safe. Conch salad is like really nutritious if you get past the conch part because it's tomatoes. We have regular. I'm going on a whole spiel. Okay, so the regular one is tomatoes, green pepper, onion, conch, and then the liquid is orange juice, lime juice, and salt. That's all that it is. But then we have a tropical version with the same ingredients plus mango, pineapple, and apple. So good. It's literally so refreshing. So yeah. But
that
we
sounds so good, TBH. Now I
don't
like,
have to experience it. You'll have to come to the Bahamas and we're gonna get you some, okay?
I would if you invited me, Alex.
You're one of the few people I will say you're invited anytime.
Gosh, did you hear that, guys? I'm honored. That's all I needed this Christmas was a trip to the Bahamas to see Alex. Thanks, Alex.
No problem, Hannah.
Well, holiday season, we just had Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, all that fun stuff is coming up. But on the other side of that is New Year's. And so we're getting into like New Year's resolution kind of things. And I don't know your view on this, Alex, but whenever I like start to think about like New Year's resolutions, I'm kind of like, oh, do I have to set a New Year's resolution? But it's really good with the start to the new year. It's a good idea for all of us to set some goals for ourselves, not only in like our personal lives, but also like for our clarinet playing, our clarinet playing. It's a really good opportunity for us to just like take a step back and see if there's some things that we can change or do differently to challenge ourselves. So that's what we're talking about today. Hashtag goals on the Venn Pod.
I'm doing this, but it's probably not even over here.
I'm not even going to try. It's probably not even the right direction, right? Knowing us. But yeah, that's what we're talking about today. So, Alex, do you have any goals that you are thinking that you'd like to set for yourself for this upcoming year?
Yeah, so I think the best way to like kick this off, because you and I are both going to give our perspectives, is like, so what goals do I have set and how do I set realistic goals? Because I mean, right now it's what, November 27th. I'm already thinking about Christmas break because I honestly only have this coming week and then I'm done with school for the semester. So it's like, okay, how do I plan rep? What techniques do I want to accomplish over Christmas break or like kick off? And how do I manage picking enough technique and rep to not overwhelm myself? Because yes, Christmas break is approximately like a month, but a month isn't forever. And I even caught myself like this past week, I was picking rep for my recital. So my New Year's goals tie into my recital rep. Um, I caught myself planning my recital and I'm just like, there's no way I'm gonna learn all of this in 3 months. Like realistically speaking, like it's not gonna happen. So I need to chill out. I need to figure out how to have an hour recital and learn all of this music in 3 months. That's honestly where I'm at. And it's a bit overwhelming, and I have to plan accordingly, and I have to pick rep that's appropriate for my skill set, but also is difficult enough to push me just a little bit. So that's like the general outtake of how I'm planning goals right now. But what about you before we go into more detail?
Well, I really like what you said there. You're looking for things that are appropriate for your current skill set, but are just enough challenging to push you beyond. And I think that that's like the key with healthy goal setting, right? Because you don't want to undersell yourself, because if you set goals that like obviously you're going to achieve, like then where's the gratification and where's the growth? And what's the point of even setting that goal? But on the other hand, if you pick goals that are like you were saying, like way far above your time limit or way far above your current like skill set or whatever, then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment, and you're going to put so much unnecessary stress in your life. And let me just tell you, you don't need more stress in your life. I promise you don't. Like, don't do that to yourself. It's just going to be bad. Like, don't do it. So yeah, I really like that. I think that's important to keep in mind when setting any kind of new goal for yourself, whether that be for your clarinet playing or just your professional life or even your personal life, apart from music and being a professional. But yeah, some goals that I have for the upcoming spring semester. There are a couple competitions that I am applying to and hoping to get into. So I'll be really crunching that rep pretty intensely in the spring semester. I would say that like my personal goals for the upcoming year aren't necessarily like event oriented. Like I do have events and concerts and stuff that will be influencing what I play and how I practice and stuff like that. But I would say they're more my goals for myself are more about how I'm approaching my clarinet playing. So one of my goals for myself is that I really want to get a better understanding of the rep that is out there for the clarinet, and more specifically the new rep that is out there. So like we're all really well versed in like our clarinet Bible pieces, like the Debussy, the Mozart, the Webers, like the stuff that you hear all the time. But I would really like to educate myself on the stuff that is out there, brand new, and not even necessarily like the really, I don't like using this word to describe new music, but like the weird stuff, like not just that, but like also like the cinematic and like the more sonata like music that's out there for the clarinet as well. So I would say that's probably one of my bigger goals for my clarinet playing. I also have some other goals oriented towards like noticing tension in my body. That's something I've noticed that I really need to work on, is like I have really tense hands and really tense shoulders and a really tense back and a really tense mind whenever I play, and that doesn't make my clarinet playing especially fun or smooth or effective. So I would say those are my biggest two. I have some things that I'm approaching in my practice, and then I have some things in like my knowledge that I want to expand as well.
That's true. And like it's so interesting because you and I alone, we have two different like mindsets and goals for this new year. And it's different objectives that we're like looking at. And it's just so crazy. Like I feel like a lot of the times as musicians, and I'm gonna try not to generalize it, but a lot of the time it's just the same thing. People set out the same goals. And I think like social media obviously influences that a lot. Like as soon as I came up or brought this topic up to you, the first thing in my mind was the 100-day challenge.
Yes, 100 days of practice.
I was like, this is something that watch on New Year's, at least one person on your timeline is gonna be like, I'm gonna try this again. And it's like, okay, so you're gonna practice for 100 days, which all of us do, maybe not consecutively, but what's the outcome you're looking for from this? And I feel like people don't think about that. Like for me, my goal is to perform at my recital. And then after that, my next goal is also my recital. I mean, on top of like academic stuff, but like the one goal I want to focus on, at least for right now, is like my recital. For you, it's competition. You're working on competition rep, and then you're going to execute the competition. You're going to look at this new world of repertoire, and then you're most likely going to perform some of that repertoire. So like, what are the outcomes that people are looking for from goals, and why don't people actually think about that more often, in my opinion? Because I feel like this 100-day challenge, yes, it looks cool, yes, you get views, but you play the same thing every day for 100 days. It's a little suspicious.
She says, insert eyeball emoji. That's a little sus, if you ask me.
Suspicious. I'm like, what are you trying to gain from this? Like, I don't see a purpose. And if there's no purpose to your goal, is it actually a goal, or is it just a, I don't know, hop on a trend? I don't know.
No, I think that's so valuable, and actually like brings up something that I really wanted to a point I really wanted to make, because I mean, I'm a people pleaser by nature. I really like when somebody gives me a pat on the back and is like, "Yes, Hannah, good job." That just, I thrive off of that. But with goal setting, I really have to take a step back and ask myself, is this something that I actually want? Is this something that is actually going to benefit me directly? So take the 100-day thing, for example. Hot take. Do I want to practice 100 days in a row? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. Because quantity of practice is less important than quality of practice. And within those 100 days, if I'm not taking time to check in with my own emotional, mental, social well-being, and I'm just like being a robot on my clarinet, am I actually addressing the goals that I expressed that I wanted to? Am I paying attention to tension? Probably not, because I'm just trying to practice for 100 days. Am I taking time out of those 100 days to research new pieces and stuff? Probably not, because I'm just so focused on getting my post for my 57th day of practice. You know what I'm saying? So like, don't let other people's, I don't want to say maybe agenda. Don't let other people's like, standards that they have for themselves or things that they think are important. That doesn't have to be your goal. That's just how somebody else approached their goal. And there are multiple ways to approach a goal. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing.
And I think you said two important things. And I think the biggest thing is with this challenge, yes, for some people, they may be accomplishing a goal. Yes, they may have a goal. But at the end of the day, a lot of people don't. And what they care about, the goal for them, is to make that post. It's to post that hashtag 56 of 100. And we're just like, congratulations. But did you post that for us to see, for us to like, I don't know the American way of saying big up, but like cheer you on, maybe cheer you on? Like you want to post that to be cheered for, or did you do that for yourself? And I think that's an important perspective to have, because with goal setting, you could practice for 100 days consecutively and not post it. You could do that. That's a thing, believe it or not.
Alex, no. How could you practice for 100 days and
Didn't
not
post the
post?
proof.
If you didn't post it, did it really happen?
No, it didn't. And that's the whole mindset, where is it for you or is it for them? Because at the end of the day, social media could be for you or it could be for the audience. And you have to figure that out on your own, and what you stand for and what you want to represent. So I think that's important. So, question, in terms of reaching these goals, I mean, ultimately for us and the goals in which we set, we have a specific thing that's going to showcase our goal being accomplished or not, right? So it's recital and competition, right? So what's the best way, or do you even keep track of if you're accomplishing what you need to accomplish, or is the progress speaking for itself? Because I think for me, the progress of learning this rap is speaking for itself. Yes, I could write down some things and being like, I didn't, like a practice journal, like, I didn't really like how my 16th run sounded that time. Maybe I'll work on that tomorrow. Or I could just keep working towards like, okay, 16s need to be cleaned tomorrow type of thing. Like, what is your approach to this stuff?
That's a good question. My approach changes all the time just based on the amount of stuff that I'm working on. Typically, the more rep and the more stuff I have that I need to be working through in a week, the less the less detailed I am about like analyzing each thing. But a way that I have a way that I have found to be really efficient in like keeping track of my progress is recording myself a lot. So I personally, whenever I go into every lesson that I have, I record every single lesson I have with my professor, whether it's with Dr. Lewevino or whether I'm having like a special lesson with Professor Radin or something like that. But I record every single one of those. That way I can hear whenever I listen back, and I transcribe my lessons too. So I record my lesson and then I take like an hour after my lesson and I transcribe them. And I just write down like the main points. Like, here's what went well, here's the instruction I received, and here's what I need to work on for my next lesson. And that's a really like quick and easy way for me to kind of keep track of my progress each week. So yeah, I record my lessons, and that's really valuable because I can hear whenever Dr. Lewevino says, oh, I noticed there's a lot of tension happening in your left hand. Can you notice that and be more mindful of it? And then I fix it and I automatically hear the difference in my sound. So I can kind of get like a sample of the thing that I'm looking for and keep working towards that. So I would recommend that to everybody. Record your lessons, transcribe your lessons. It's really helpful. The other thing that I do is I kind of record at the end of every practice session too. So like, I don't like sit down and write notes about each recording that I make, but let's say, so for example, in my practice session after this podcast, I'm working on my jury piece. So I'm probably going to hit the little pieces that we talked about in my lesson on Friday, make sure those are nice and good. And then I'm probably going to do a couple runs of it and record them and just see where I'm at for my jury in a couple weeks. And then I'll listen back to that before I do my next practice session on that piece. And I'll be like, okay, so this was good, this got fixed, but I really do want to go back and get that thing. So I guess I do it on like a smaller scale. Like, I don't daily write in my practice journal. I really admire those people, by the way. Like, if that's you, like, round of applause. We're so proud of you. That's amazing.
It ain't me. It is not me.
No, it's really not me. But I find that if I tried to do that approach, I don't think it would work for me because, like, while I do like to be organized and intentional, I feel like if I forced myself to do that, it would be, again, adopting a process that would not necessarily help me meet my goal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't fit into like my practice regime. It doesn't really fit into like my way that I go about things. I feel like there would be some value to it maybe, but I feel like what I'm doing already really works and helps me get a healthy view of where I'm at on my goal timeline. So that's my 2 cents about that. And I feel like you have a similar process. Do you want to speak about how you go about that kind of thing?
I feel like this kind of ties into the whole, like, how do you accomplish a goal, but also how do you accomplish learning a piece? So I think this is really neat that we like came to this point. So I'll talk about my experience. So Hannah records her lessons. So at ASU, Dr. Gardner and Dr. Spring we could write our own notes and we could record the lesson, but their role in the lesson, I would say in generic or general, would be to take notes. So they take the notes for us. So every lesson we get lesson notes, and it's what did we talk about, what key things that you said that you need to fix, what we adjusted, what new fingerings we said to use, what didn't sound good, what needs to be adjusted. If your reads suck, get new box, things like that. So we don't necessarily have to transcribe our lessons like Hannah does. We have like the written form for us from our professor to us. So that's great. I actually wanted to say something. So in terms of like accomplishing a goal, so clearly I am working on new wrap now. Well, not now because it's in shipping, so I don't even have it. It's stressed. But Dr. Gardner is about to put everybody onto a new practice strategy, and I was like a guinea pig, and it worked wonders. So he has a strategy because for me, I used to think that chunking was the best way for me to learn things. So I would chunk things. I would learn a chunk. One chunk would progress faster than the other. So one chunk would be at 100 while the other one is still at 80. And the next one would be at 60, the next one at 65. If you hear that and you do that, I highly suggest that you stop. Because the problem with that is that when you're in your lesson and it's time to perform the entire movement, let's say, you can't do the whole movement because you're now taking things at different tempos. So Dr. Gardner says, how about you just learn the entire movement, like exaggeration, but honestly true. Learn it at like 30 BPM, like a chord equals 30. Play the entire movement, reading, don't stop the entire thing at 30 BPM as you're learning it. And let's say that my goal from now, which is let's say December to March, December, January, February, March, let's say I know that every month doesn't have 30, but let's say every month has 30 days for this example. So that's 120 days if my math is mathing. So you have 120 days and you need to get this tempo up to, let's say, 120. Realistically speaking, when we learn something, we like to click up 20 clicks a day. And he's like, what are you doing that for? It makes no sense. And I'm like, what do you mean it makes no sense? And he's like, it makes no sense, Alex. You have 120 days and you want to get to 120. You're already at 30. But let's say I started at 1 BPM. Realistically speaking, I only have to go up a click, 1 click a day. Does that make sense? And that will get me to my March 1st goal. And that just was, but that's a new approach that I'm taking on because chunking has not worked for me. Yes, I've reached my goal, but ultimately speaking, there's always that one section that isn't as strong as I would like. And by approaching this new way of learning, well, by using this new way of learning music, it helps you to reach your goal in a faster and a more realistic sense. So I would say that's my newest way of reaching goals in terms of rep.
That's so, so cool. I really like that. I mean, but like, okay, so like my knee-jerk reaction, I was like, of course it works because Josh Gardner says it works and we trust what he says. Like the man knows what he's talking about. Like, of course it works. But like my knee-jerk reaction was like, oh my gosh, that's so scary to play that piece so under tempo for so long. But there's something to be said for that because your brain doesn't register, oh, this run was at tempo. This run was under tempo. Your brain just registers finger patterns. So if you are learning your finger patterns messily or the wrong way, I've been the culprit of this, like, oh, shoot, oh, I didn't realize that note was this. Dang it, now I'm all screwed up. We've all been there, right? So if you are learning it under tempo for so long, then your target practice is so much more precise and so much more accurate. So that when it's time to play it at 120, even if you're playing sextuplets at 120, it's going to be there because your finger patterns have been so refined for so long.
And with this, like, obviously your metronome is your biggest goal setter. Like you'll have to do the math and figure out, okay, I started at 130, my goal tempo is 120, and I have 120 days. You'll have to do the math to calculate. But even with my piece, I think that was like, I set a goal for myself in a month. And literally to reach my goal, the most amount of clicks I needed to increase in a day was 2 clicks. And he was serious. And I never thought about this, but why do we increase tempo by like 20 clicks a day and be like, yeah, I got that? No, you just stress ran that and your fingers are still chaotic. But I will say when I did that for one movement in a piece that I'm working on, it's full of runs, full of licks, full of funky stuff. But the evenness and the met in me was like this. Like it was one lesson that we ran that movement basically up to the performance tempo that I would do it, which I'm not performing this piece. I don't even know why I learned it. It was a challenge for me. I just wanted to challenge myself. But it was one time because I've been playing it with a met every single day, like nonstop. Obviously, I don't play with a met in my lesson, but I was playing it. He would click the met to start. I was right on with the met. He would stop it. I would keep playing, like, because I'm playing the whole movement. He would start it again. I'm right on with the met. He would turn it off. It was like I was one with the met.
Alex and the Met are one. She has reached next level.
But that speaks volumes as to like so much metronome practice. My fingers were as even as could be. They were not even stressed. Like I just felt the internal pulse. Whereas I worked on a different movement that I learned a while ago. And he even said, like, Alex, your internal pulse isn't that on today. And I was like, I don't know why. But I know why. It's because I didn't turn on the met.
And he probably knew that too. Josh could smell it.
I was like, because I was zooming. But when you practice, I don't know, I thought that that was a really neat way to learn because I never thought of that. Like, I don't know, we're never taught how to practice. That's the thing. So all of us have different ways of doing it. But this method, I 10 out of 10 recommend. Like it was really good. It really made learning repertoire like realistic. Like it wasn't impossible to learn a piece in 3 months, if that makes sense. Like it's possible to do stuff and not have to stress about it. Like if you actually plan things out, your goal at that day is to just increase the tempo by 1 click. Like that is possible. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that brings up such an important, that actually brings up two really important points. Like number one, thanks for spilling the tea on that technique. I'm definitely going to steal that now. But it brings up two really important things. Number one, I think it's important for us to ask ourselves, okay, so whatever your goal is, whether that's I'm going to perform this piece at this event, or I would like to see this technical improvement in my playing, is your current approach the most efficient way to reach your goal? That's just a question that we need to ask ourselves, because chances are, if we're setting this goal for ourselves, that means we haven't gotten there yet. So chances are our approach is not the most efficient way, or we're doing it the hard way, or we're doing it a way that is not going to get us the results that we want. So like, don't be afraid to like share your goals with your mentor or your professor, or even somebody who is older and wiser than you in your studio, and be like, hey, I would really like to see this happen in my playing or in this piece. How would you approach it? Or what is a technique that works for you? And they might have a bomb to drop, like Alex, something that is going to be so good and so effective.
But has there ever been a moment where you haven't reached a goal? Because I'm like thinking back to myself, and not to sound like, I don't know, like bragging, but I have never not reached a goal. But I think the reason for that is because we plan well. Although our method, like obviously my method of learning repertoire has not been the best up until this current semester. Yes, I've reached my goal, but I will say that time management is key to all of this. And it's figuring out, when do you actually want to learn this piece? And when do you have to perform this piece? Because I think the downfall of a lot of people, especially in terms of prepping for, like, let's say competition or recital, is that the goal for them is the performance, but they don't set a deadline for themselves. And I set deadlines for myself. So let's say my recital, I think it's like March 26th. My deadline for myself is March 1st. The reason why I say that is because if I don't know my music by the month of my performance, that's a problem. That means I don't know my music, because that month is going to be stress learning rather than just like, what do we call it when we just like, you and I do this, we just run our piece like daily. Like, I don't know the term. Like training for the recital is that month where I see if I could play my rep that hour program straight, right? But I can't do that if I'm still learning my piece. So I think like setting deadlines for yourself is key to reaching your goal. But you have another take?
Yeah, and you actually reminded of what I was going to say earlier. So it's really important that not only we like actually take the time to like plan these things, but while we're like in the process of reaching our goal, like it's so important our mindset when we're planning how we're going to reach our goal, because like if you're not mindful about something, then it's not going to happen. Like it's so easy for us, like when we're practicing, especially if we're doing the 100-day challenge, no shade on the 100-day challenge, but if your mind is on a goal that is not going to help you, you're just like going through the motions to get through it. But you need to like bring your goal to the front of your mind so that like your processes, your strategies, your practicing, all of those things can come together to help you meet the goal. So for example, I mentioned earlier that one of the goals that I am trying to achieve for myself is tension-free playing, or as much tension-free playing as I can. There always is a little bit, but my fingers are tense, my brain is tense, my body is tense. And so oftentimes that comes when I don't think about it. So the second Dr. Llewellyn in one of my lessons says, you're being tense, or your knuckles are turning white, or your shoulders are rising up, the second she brings that to the front of my mind, oh, I can do something about it. So like part of goal setting is like the mental battle of goal setting, is keeping it at the front of your mind, and is like being actively engaged in, okay, is what I am doing right now helping me achieve my goal? Is my strategy helping me achieve my goal? Is my mindset helping me achieve my goal? Is my mind on the right things? So that's that. Back to your other question that you asked, can I remember not achieving a goal? I can remember. So I guess in my undergrad, I entered our Coolman competition my sophomore and my junior year. And my sophomore year, I played Rigoletto, our favorite in the clary world. Is a total beast. And actually, my one friend played it this semester for the memorized competition at UNT, and I was like having flashbacks for him. I was like, I literally know exactly what it's like to play this piece memorized, and it's terrible. It's so scary and so hard.
I would just like to interject that I don't care who won that year because I don't remember who, but Hannah should have won because that is a beast of a piece to play from memory. And she played that so clean. Like, if you actually remember your performance, that was a good performance.
Well, thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. That's really nice of you to say. Alex was the most supportive friend. So another side piece for our talk today is that good friends help you achieve your goals. She and like all of our friends in the audience each had a letter of my name so that when I bowed, I was like, thank the Lord, I'm done. They all went, Hannah. And there was just like a big row of signs that spelled my name. It was really sweet. That was really stressful, but really rewarding. But I didn't win that year. And one of our good friends did, and she did an amazing job. And that's like, she totally deserved it. It was really, really good. But that was a time when I didn't meet my goal. And when I think back on my performance, I had a lot of things to be proud of. It's been a while since I listened to that. Maybe I should check back in. But when I think back to what I remember of the performance, there was lots of things that went well, but there was also like some memory slips where I had to like noodle a couple notes that maybe weren't on the page. And there was also some things that could have been cleaner. And so, yeah, that was a time that I didn't meet a goal of like winning, but I think in that process, I met a lot of goals. Like I have struggled in my past and continue to confront like stage anxiety, like performance anxiety. I think we all like battle with that varying degrees throughout our careers. So that was a big leap in getting me over my performing anxiety, was doing that competition. So other goals were met in that way. But I think back to that, and I think one of the reasons that maybe I didn't win, even though I was proud of my performance, was that at that age I was not being methodical with my approach. I was kind of like let's just throw so much paint at the wall and whatever sticks is gonna stick. That's a great example of a piece where I should have been going up 2 clicks a day and measuring it out how many clicks a day I needed to do that and setting deadlines of when I needed to have things memorized. I didn't do that at that age. I did not know any better as a little baby sophomore undergrad. So yeah, that's an instance where I feel like I could have benefited from a more methodical approach and also being more mindful of my techniques and of my mindset even going into it all. So yeah, that's a really good question. So here's a question for you. How do you decide whether or not a goal is healthy or attainable?
I just wrote something down based on what you said because I wrote the competition versus winning. And to me, so in high school, I competed a lot. And there was one year that I didn't win, but I wasn't mad at it. And why was I not mad at it? And did I think to myself, did I accomplish my goal? I did. Versus for you, when you didn't win, to you, you didn't accomplish your goal. So for me, and I don't do this to make myself feel better, I just think it's healthy. Winning was not my goal. My goal was to complete that competition, to perform and execute that competition. The ultimate decision is not in my hand. I could prepare as much as I want and as much as I can, but ultimately, I just went out there to do what I planned and set out to do. So for me, that's one way that a healthy mindset is in this picture. Another thing is, honestly, and I keep saying it, it's just being realistic about your goals. So like for some people, they may not be as like goal driven as myself or as you. I describe myself as very goal driven. Like I'm very like, what task am I meant to accomplish right now? And how am I going to reach it? And how am I going to get to that? Right. So like maybe auditions is a good example. Do I realistically think I could get into a Juilliard? No. Why? Because I can't put together a whole recital memorized to perform in front of Anthony McGill. I could say that just like that. I'm very realistic about where I stand in the rankings of music, right? That's how you set healthy goals. It's being real with yourself. If you lie to yourself and you're like, I could get into Juilliard, I could get into Curtis, I could get into New England Conservatory. Well, realistically, compared to those kids in the training that they had, I don't compete. I do not compete because I didn't have that same thing. I am behind in the realm of music and I've worked very hard to catch up. But being realistic about where you are as a musician is very important. Yes.
I don't think you're behind. I don't think I don't think that's a healthy mindset to hold. Your training is your training, and Master Shay, soon to be Dr. Shay, you're doing just fine, more
Yeah.
than just fine.
Well,
So
yeah,
you
but
are where you are, and you can't control like what you can't control like how like what experiences have brought you to the place that you have been. Like life happens to you, and all you can do is the best you can with the cards you've been dealt. And Alex, you've been dealt some pretty good cards, and you've played them well because look at you now,
but
girl.
that
So
sets into the second part. So it's being realistic with yourself and being realistic about how you are as an individual, meaning, are you the type of person to strive for excellence, or are you the person to just say, I have a goal and don't do anything about it? I'm the type of person that as soon as I came to school in America for my undergraduate music studies, I was like, holy cow, I need to get myself together, because in the training that I had growing up in the Bahamas was nothing compared to what American musicians in high school had, let alone those who had private instructors. So I had goals to catch up. That was my time where I was catching up. And I set out a mission for myself to be the best that I can be and to accomplish as much as I can in those 4 years with Dr. Kramer. But if you're the type of person to say, I'm going to catch up and I'm going to say I'm going to catch up and do nothing about it, then that's not healthy, because then you're just going to disappoint yourself. You're not disappointing anyone but yourself when you don't accomplish a goal. So those are my 2 cents on that.
that is really good 2 cents. So like, okay, so yes, I agree. You and I are both pretty intrinsically motivated people. Like we are able to set goals for ourselves. Normally they're like healthy and realistic goals, like most of the time, absolutely. And then we're able to like find ways to meet those goals, which is like really awesome that we have that superpower. But what about like what advice would you have for somebody, maybe a younger student, maybe our undergrad selves? Like what advice would you have for someone who maybe isn't as intrinsically motivated and needs like some accountability? Like what are ways that you can stay accountable in your mission to achieve your goal?
Right. So with that, it's much more difficult. And I'm just thinking about like, so for me, as soon as you said that, I asked a question to the audience that's standing nowhere near me. But I'm like, are you passionate about what you're doing, or are you doing this for someone else? Because I think the reason why we are so self-motivated is because we're passionate about what we do and we want to do it. So that's the first thing. Ask yourself if you actually want to do this. Because if you don't, then setting a goal does nothing but act as like a deterrent. Like you don't really want to do it. You're doing it because someone, maybe your parents, are making you do it, which sometimes that is the case in terms of being a young musician, right? The second thing is, if you do want to be more self-motivated, I say if you have a private instructor, which I'm going to assume you do, which, yeah, I'm going to assume most people do if they are like a private musician learning rap. I say vocalize that to your instructor, because someone who like teaches or taught young kids before, it's difficult to be a teacher and put pressure on a kid, because you don't know if they actually want to pursue music as a lifelong career or if they're just doing this for funsies. Because if they're doing it for funsies, you're not pushing them as hard as you're pushing a kid who said, I want to be a music major. Because if you need help, that's what the teacher is for. That's when they start setting assignments. That's when they start assisting you with setting goals. They're like, okay, we got to push this to 60 BPMs, a chord equals 60 BPMs. And then when you don't reach that goal, they hold you accountable. So when you're younger, you do need someone to hold you accountable. And I could speak from my own experience. It was one time I had a teacher. I don't know if I told this story, but I was pretty self-driven. But there was one lesson I didn't practice. And my teacher knew that I wanted to pursue music. And I came to my lesson. She trauma. It was kind of funny though. It was kind of funny. It was like that's what kicked me into shape and like switched my mindset low key. I came to one lesson unprepared, and as soon as I played, she told me to pack up and she sent me home. Like there was no lesson. And that was a harsh way to keep me accountable. It's like I'm not there to waste her time, and I'm not there to waste my time, and I'm not there to waste my mom's money time. I remember it was one time for a kid who was really wanting to like start pursuing like other things in music. I literally had to tell this kid, I was like, you know, your mom pays for every lesson. The kid had no idea because sometimes they do this and they don't realize that people are paying for your success. People are paying for you to be better, but you have to want to be better yourself. So that's one way I think it's having a teacher to hold you accountable because yes, I could say write notes to yourself and be like, make a checklist. Like, did you accomplish this day? But the problem with that is that you may not have a realistic sense of what you could accomplish in a day at that point. Like, you may be setting out to do too much, or you may be setting out to do too little. So that's when you need a third party to kind of like give you that other perspective and help you set those goals. That could be a friend, like Hannah and I keeping each other accountable, or in most cases, it could be a teacher. So yeah. What about your point of view?
No, I definitely do both of those things. I think that's a really important thing to ask yourself is like, do I actually want this? At UNT, there's a really strong presence in the military bands. Like our school is kind of known for like pushing people into a military career, which is like super great and super admirable if you want that. But like sometimes I hear about my peers like going to military auditions and I'm like, dang, should I be doing that? But I'm like, you don't want that. Like you don't want that for your career. So you don't need to put that unnecessary goal on yourself. That's an example of the first one. I definitely believe in telling your teacher because they're your mentor and they're going to be able to really give you the strategies and the tips and kind of the needed pressure to keep yourself on that path to reaching that goal. The third thing that I like to do is I like to plan rewards for myself. And as like silly as that sounds, it totally works. So like I won't pretend that I'm overjoyed at playing my piece at 40 BPM when I really just want to play it up to speed because I love it and I'm excited about it. Like I won't pretend that I'm excited about that because I'm not. But if I do that and I'm able to do like my 4 clicks for the day or whatever my math turns out to be, and it gets better and I do that, then I might reward myself with like, oh, I was really disciplined and strategic in my practice today. I think I'm going to make some chocolate chip cookies for fun. Or like even bigger, like I like at the end of my recitals, like I am a big believer, like after every recital I've ever given, I have taken like 2 solid days off of playing the clarinet. I just have not touched my clarinet and I have like done like fun life stuff that I haven't had time for, like going out for dinner and reading a book and going shopping. So like just stuff like that. Like know yourself, know what things you value outside of the clarinet. And maybe it's a daily thing like, oh, I did my under tempo practice today. I can spend 10 extra minutes on TikTok. Or whatever it is that you like, what you like to do, reward yourself. Like I'm a huge believer in that and it totally works because not only are you like rewarding a behavior that you would like to see more of in yourself, but you're also like protecting your peace in the stressful crazy world that is music, and that is so important.
Yeah. I think the only reason why I can't reward myself is because I'll reward myself for everything. And that's me knowing me as a person. Like you have to know yourself and I have no self-control.
That is okay, Alex, you have a lot of self-control. You're very
Hannah,
disciplined.
I live when you come to visit me, I live like 1 minute from my favorite boba joint, and you'll see why it's very dangerous for me to live that close. It's like $7 for a drink, and I get it. I'm like, but
Oh,
I do say that whenever I have like a performance, I usually do treat myself because that's me completing a goal. I'm just like, there we go. Or like before a concert, sometimes I like to convince myself that boba makes me play better, but sometimes I just say that to give me an excuse to get boba. But that's a way that I do reward myself. I think being a musician requires a lot of self-discipline, and it's hard to be a musician when you don't have that. That's why this question is so difficult because I think the reason why you and I, like this goes into previous topics we talked about, the reason why you and I haven't experienced like I would call it severe burnout the way others have is because we're very good at prioritizing ourselves as people too. I think people, and we've said this, they disregard the person aspect and they just focus on the musician aspect. Like, do I treat myself and still have a life outside of trying to accomplish these goals? I do. So, how do I do that? Well, it's kind of planning out my life. Like, realistically speaking, my life is planned out in a calendar. Like, I won't even lie. Like, is there a time where I like say I'm going to practice at this time frame? And if I accomplish my goal before that time frame ends, do I continue playing nonsense or do I leave? I leave. But you need to set goals for yourselves because are you playing? And it's that whole like quality over quantity mindset, right? It's like you could set out these time frames, like 4 hours a day. Go ahead, do it. It's not for me, but it could be for someone. But you could do that, but you need to prioritize the quality in which you're doing. And that just ties into this whole, I think, like big topic, which is just being realistic with yourself. Like, what can you accomplish in a day? Like with this new practice strategy with Dr. Gardner, for me, it's to do 2 clicks a day. And if I did the 2 clicks, then I'm done. If I did that within 10 minutes, then I'm done. Usually it takes like 30 minutes, but it never takes me like 2 hours. And if it does, then it does. But the 2 clicks are my goal for that day, you know? And it's just little things like that. You have to set like micro goals, not like big goals. Yes, that's the recital, but what are the micro goals and how do you find those for yourself? Because you could set, I think, in the season of auditions, you could set a goal that I want to get into, let's say, UNT. And when you don't get into UNT, is your life over? If it's over, then I don't know how to feel for you because that was a very sad moment, but there's so much more to life and so many lessons to learn from that. And if you only applied to UNT, you weren't realistic about your goal. You should have had a backup plan as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I feel bad, but then were you realistic? Were you realistic about your skill sets? It's like things like that. And that, like, I mean, even for me auditioning for DMA, I had to be realistic about myself. When I got into Michigan State, I was shook. I could not believe it. I was like that was my reach school, but I had realistic schools as well. And ASU was not one of them. Yes, I was at ASU, but it was still a reach school because the professors here are incredible. But I had some other like underneath, like as safe schools. That's the whole like being realistic. Have safe schools, have reach schools, you know? So yeah.
We're gonna have to save some of these goods for when we do our audition podcast a little bit later this spring when people are like getting into the thick of it.
Right? Oh my gosh. Flashbacks. I'm
Yeah,
ready.
like this time of year comes and like everybody starts to freak out a little bit about pre-screenings and auditions and applications. And I'm like, oh, that was me a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm
I even have a friend. So my friend is applying to DMA programs right now, and they're saying that people are telling them that they should apply to like literally 7+ schools. And my first response was, "Do you have 7+ schools money?"
yeah.
Like I don't. I know you don't. So what are you applying? And I said to them, I said, if you're applying to 7 schools, you don't know what you want. You don't know where you want to go. Do you hear that?
Oh
Oh,
yeah. There's people playing around here.
no, there's an alarm going off by me. But
Oh,
yeah,
no, I don't hear yours.
okay, good. But for me, it was like, I think I only applied to 4 DMA schools and I think even like 4 master's programs. And one, because I knew where I wanted to go. Two, it's expensive. And 3, I had my ranking of reach, kind of reach, but then safe. That's I think that's the perfect way to describe being realistic about yourself. It's like knowing where you might not get in, but if you get in, you would be so happy to go there. And then it's being like, if I have this safe school and I got in and didn't get into my other 3, then I would also be okay going here too. But why am I having like a pile of okays? I don't even want to go to the OKs. I need at least 1 or 2 OKs, but I don't need 6 more of them. So that's my perspective.
No, that's a really good perspective to have. And that kind of goes along with, I heard this ratio one time. I think it was on like Digital Clarinet Academy or like one of those like performance mindset pages, but it was like the rule of thirds. So Olympian athletes adopt this mindset. You should feel like you're reaching 1/3 of the time. You should feel like you are being pushed and that you're being challenged. And you might feel a little bit like, I suck at this because you're being reached and because you're reaching and being challenged, but that's okay. So you should be like past your comfort zone like 1/3 of the time. You should be right in your comfort zone 1/3 of the time. Like, oh yeah, in the zone, can totally do this, definitely good. Like, it's a little bit hard, but I believe in my ability to make this happen. And then you should be resting or like in your advanced zone 1/3 of the time. So 1/3 of the time you should be like either, taking a break or exploring other ways of achieving your goal, or you should be like, oh yeah, totally got this, I've already achieved this goal, look how great I am at this goal. So like 1/3 super difficult, pushing yourself, 1/3 in the zone but being pushed, 1/3 resting or revisiting skills that you've already honed. And that's a good way to like break up your goals too. Like all of your goals should not be like, oh, I might get it, I might not, I'm gonna stress myself out trying to achieve all these goals, and then like have like one easy one. Like you should have goals in every arena. Maybe the ones in the easy one are like maintaining the work that I've already done. Maybe the ones in like your middle zone are like, oh, getting this piece ready for my recital. And maybe your reach goals are like really honing this technique like circular breathing for me that I've been really wanting to do for a really long time. Maybe that's part of your reach category, right? So like just check in with yourself and make sure that you're not putting too much stock in like the heavy weight goals and not enough in like the middle and the easy range goals.
Yeah. So, I mean, the rule of thirds I've never heard of before, but I think it's great because I mean, like for me, in setting out this or planning out this recital program, that's the mindset that I'm trying to have. I won't say it's there yet. Like a lot of the rep is still like very like technical, and I'm like, I only have 3-4 months. Can I actually do it?
But you
And
still have 3 to 4 months.
I
Like
still have 3 to 4 months, and I have to remember that. But with that, like, it's important to not just be overly ambitious all the time. Now I remember my point. But with that, like I mentioned earlier, if you're a younger person and you don't really know like how to set goals for yourself, you ask for help, right? Like you ask for a third party perspective. Sometimes I will say, and this happened to me when I was at Messiah actually, I wanted to play a piece, and Dr. Kramer told me no. She said it's too hard.
what was it?
It was Debussy. I was a sophomore. So that was just in my like first like early years. Like I was still improving, like getting up to the American standard, I would say, and describe as. So it was fair. But at that point, I knew I was very driven and I knew grad school was a goal of mine. I had that in my mind and I did not vocalize that to her. With that though, I said, well, how about I play it for you right now or play part of it that I learned, and then you could tell me if I should or should not still learn this piece. So sometimes if you are determined to set out a goal for yourself and you know you're willing to work towards achieving that, I say go for it. Yes, sometimes you may have to fight to prove that you're worthy of that goal, which for me was performing Debussy. But if you were determined and did the work on your end to do that, you could prove someone wrong and you could shake them up a little bit. Because I did it and she said, okay, we can learn this piece. Because at that point, I had worked towards, like, I knew I would have to prove my worth at that point. And sometimes, yes, that is a realistic outtake of being like a student to professor relationship. Like, sometimes what you've been doing for them is too easy compared to what you actually want to do. If you haven't set out like that 1-to-3 ratio that Hannah was just talking about, like, have you just been playing easy stuff that they haven't actually seen you play something technical and like out there? Probably, because that's why Dr. Kramer questioned my level at that point, and she had the right to do that because I had not played anything to that standard yet. So sometimes you may have to prove yourself, but if you are willing to work towards achieving something, then I say go for it. And there's no harm in trying. It's a lesson. Play the piece, but you need to prepare. Like that is the key. Like you can't just say I want to do this and do nothing to work towards it. Like you will have to show that you've been working on this behind closed doors. Like you are willing to showcase what you've been doing and prove that you're worthy of learning that. So
Look at you. That's amazing. I didn't even know that story. I'm so proud of you.
I was like, I want to play Debussy. And she was like, no. And I was like, but what if I play a little bit right now? And you could tell me if I could still do it or not. And I did. And she said, yeah. And I was like,
Hey,
and
yo.
that was on my first recital. And I really liked that piece. So
It's a beautiful piece.
yeah, that's a little outtake because sometimes you don't know your goals and sometimes other people don't know what you're able to achieve because of the mindset you've shown them, you know? So it goes both ways and it's internal and external. That's the tricky thing with goals.
Yes. So I guess the moral of the story is make sure that externally you are doing all of the things possible to set yourself up for success, like making a plan and making sure that that plan is going to help you get to your goal and being disciplined about your plan. And then internally checking in with yourself, okay, is this goal actually a goal that I want that is going to benefit me? And am I in a healthy mindset to achieve this goal? And am I taking care of myself apart from my efforts to achieve this goal? All of those things. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's
I want to put one last closing point because with the whole, I wrote this down just so people know. And like with the whole Dr. Gardner strategy of learning a piece and calculating the days in which you want to play, he also said to calculate the days that you won't be playing. So like for me at that time point, that's not English. At that time, I was about to travel for a whole week and not touch my clarinet because I was going to my sister's wedding. So I had to calculate 7 days off. So what was the amount that I needed to increase clicks per day with 7 days away from my clarinet? Things like that, you need to calculate. If you know that there's one day where you may be observing like a religious holiday, like let's say Christmas, like people tell us to practice on Christmas and we try, but sometimes we don't. Calculate one day off from that goal. Calculate probably New Year's because you're probably not going to practice on New Year's either. Being realistic about when you will and will not be practicing all falls into that. It's accountability. It's just being realistic with yourself. And that's something to remember. So,
absolutely. That's great advice. Well, this has been goal setting with Venn Duo. That's how we set our goals. Hashtag Venn Duo, hashtag goals. We wish you the best of luck with all of your New Year's whether they be musical or not. But yeah, we just want to express during this holiday season that we are so thankful for all you guys. We love getting to share our thoughts and our little music and our TikToks with you. So thanks for all the love that you continue to show us. And we love you guys a lot too. So comment below what goals you are setting for yourself in this new year. We would love to hear about it and be able to hold you accountable. And if you do the 100 days of practice, no hate.
just a little bit of hate.
Not a lot though, so don't worry.
Tiny bit. I won't hate you if you set real goals for yourself and not just post a day. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, this has been the Venn Pod.
Anyways, happy holidays, love Venn. See you guys.